delay. So stop your waiting.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for another episode of the Fox 12 Weather Podcast. This is episode 76. Today is Thursday, November 2nd. I'm meteorologist Jeff Orgeron, joined by Camilla Ortiz. Hey Camilla.
Hello.
And Chief Meteorologist Mark Nelson. Hey Mark.
Hey Jeff and Camilla.
Hey guys, so you're both recording from home. I'm in studio. We're wrapping up Good Day Oregon right now. It's been a pretty windy morning along the coast. I saw you guys were sending out some push alerts to the Fox 12 weather app yesterday, kind of giving people a heads up about the wind. By the way, if you don't already have that downloaded, that's a really good way to get updates on what's coming weather-wise.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Nice promotion. Well played. Good.
thank you very much. So, yeah, we're going to go over kind of the pattern that we're experiencing. We have certainly entered a really active pattern in terms of the rain, and at times we'll be dealing with wind, high elevation snow. For the folks that are just listening to the podcast, we have our outline of the podcast up right now. We're going to do an October review, kind of go over the numbers for October 2023. We'll talk about the fact that we have entered that wet pattern. We'll take a look at some of the rainfall outlooks. We'll talk about any potential mountain snow coming, or kind of some sad views of the mountains because
Womp womp.
it's been pretty warm. Yeah. There could be some, potential for even more active weather down the road. So Mark is really going to dive into that. We'll give you maybe a first alert there. And then we have a really cool graphic to show you of average annual rainfall around the Pacific or around the metro area. And by the way, for the folks that are just listening, I totally messed up the graphic. I typed out annual, ANUULAL. I totally misspelled it.
Annual.
And Mark is zooming in on that right now to shame me. So thank you.
Exactly.
It's
exactly.
okay, Jeff. It shows that we're all human and everyone makes mistakes.
Oh, wow. Is this a live?
Okay, guys.
What is
Nope,
this?
nope. It's a view out my window about a half hour ago. Tell me what's going on there. I looked out the window, and when I first came up to make coffee,
Is
it
that
was
a
clear. And then
double pan? Is that a? I
Is
thought
it
moisture
what?
was getting it. I thought moisture was getting in between like the window or
No.
something.
No. The windows were clear when I woke up. I look out, and most of my windows, especially on the south side of the house, were suddenly fogged up on the outside. What was going on? Come on, meteorologist.
I mean,
Why did it suddenly fog up?
it's the same process that occurs when we take off for work and our windows fog up in our car.
But on the outside.
Is that what you're getting at? Oh, that's fogging up on the outside?
Yep. Does
Oh,
this give you a hint?
the temperature is warming up outside?
Oh,
Exactly.
the temperature's warming up. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
So
southerly wind? Yeah.
yeah, so we had the cool easterly wind all night, all yesterday. Here the current view, and easterly wind still. There's a very thin layer of cool air. It's still 52 at Troutdale, 49 at the ODOT sensor at Troutdale, but it's 60 with the south wind like a mile away overhead. So the warm air is surfacing. I live at 1,000 feet, and sure enough, my temperature went from 45 when I first woke up. I think it's like 55 now. So that happens in the wintertime from time to time. But the southerlies are taking over. What a change this morning.
Mhm.
Can you go back to that image?
Yeah.
The picture?
Yeah.
So is that the chicken coop right there? Or is that a greenhouse? That's the
No,
greenhouse.
it's a greenhouse in the hot tub.
Oh, okay. The
Um,
hot tub. We got to get a view of the hot tub, of course. That's a
There's
common
nobody in it.
topic on this podcast. It probably comes up every other week.
Yeah, there's nobody
Actually,
in
that's the pool. My bad, Mark. That's the pool, the Mark Nelson pool.
What on
Oh,
the
no,
left?
pool's to the left off the picture.
Oh.
That's retired for the year. That's out of commission.
Moving on. But I just thought that was interesting. I thought that was interesting that we get that sometimes. Sometimes you'll get that driving from the cool air up into the warmer air when we have an inversion. So, but it's all going to be wiped out soon. Everybody's got a warm day.
I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I didn't think there was going to be a quiz at the beginning of this podcast.
There you go.
Yeah.
Pressure was on. All right. Let's talk about the month of October. You guys, I think, edited these graphics. So Camilla,
Mhm.
I'm sure you're familiar with how this all played out. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
let you take this one away.
Well, we started the month of October very warm. As you can see, we had, 4 days there above 80 degrees. So that really kind of bumped our average temperatures quite a bit. I mean, I think through, correct me if I'm wrong, through the first half or through the 17th or something like that, weren't we closer to 4 degrees warmer than normal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then, things started to cool down. So you can see from the 24th to the 28th, we were starting to see below average days temperature wise. So, it seems like fall has finally set in the last week of October. But as you can see from this graphic, or if you can't see, it says 2.2 degrees warmer than normal on average. And it's our 10th warmest October on record in Portland.
There you go. Rainfall was,
kind of meh, exactly. Yeah, but as expected, right? I mean, October is very much still kind of a transition month. So we had some rainy days, we had some dry days. It looks like our wettest day here on the calendar, the 24th, where we got, 16th, excuse me.
Oh yeah, that was 16th, a soaker.
Yeah, we got almost 0.8 of an inch that day. But
I liked October. I thought it was a good month. I mean, some rain. We didn't have to worry about fire season because we had some rain and it was over, fire-wise. So then we enjoyed the dry days, and I thought it was a pretty pleasant October in general.
Yeah. So we got 2.5 inches about of rain total. So below average, but not terrible.
And so the graphic that Mark just pulled up is the top 10 warmest Octobers on record. Camilla just mentioned that this was the 10th warmest. Average temperature between night and day was 57.8 degrees. But last October, still ranks warmest. Average temperature of 61.4 degrees. We had last October we had the Nakia Creek fire burning in Southwest Washington that was sending some smoke into the metro area, and there were some fires getting out of control in the Coast Range. So it was nice to have a change this year. Kind of
it was good.
Wetter, cooler October, slightly cooler at least. All right, so clearly we are in the wet season now. Would you guys agree?
Oh
yeah, definitely.
It has arrived.
It's funny. I showed this image this morning. We show it every day, of course, on various newscasts. But I showed it yesterday morning. Bonnie and Joe were sitting at the desk, and they were like, "Oh, there's still some snow on the ground. What are the expectations for the mountain?" I was like, "This is going to be gone soon." And then I brought this view in this morning, and the snow was almost completely wiped out. There are a couple patches there, but
look at the temp.
Yeah,
52.
Wow.
52
Super
up
mild.
at Ski Bowl, folks. So yeah, and you know what? I've learned this over the years. Mild rain melts snow much more quickly than just warm, sunny days. Because in the cool season, the sunshine is pretty weak anyway. But it's like the rain really does it more so than the sunny days.
Yeah.
So that's the
I
view
thought
of
I had
Ski
one
Bowl.
more.
Pretty pathetic, but I mean, and Camilla, you had a little saying that you were trying to quote Mark last night. If you haven't been to Camilla's Twitter page, you should check out the video.
It was so bad. So Mark was saying this at the end of last week, right? After the snowfall, and he pretty much like, it's going to melt. And that clip was actually from the weekend. It was from Saturday's 10 p.m. show. And I'm noticing that the snow is melting up there. And I was like, oh, perfect. I should say that saying that Mark threw out. But before I went on, Jeff, I was like, you're going to botch it. Like, how many times have you said this? Never. But of course I get on TV and I was like, I got this. I can challenge myself to do. And then I just completely screwed it up. So October snow comes and goes. November snow stays and grows. That's what I was trying to say. Didn't come out that way.
And what you don't see in that clip on Twitter is that there was a director in your ear, Drew, God bless him. He was trying to help out, but he gave you the wrong phrase while he's trying to help you out. So it's extra confusing.
Yeah, it was just a hot mess. Yeah, go watch that if you want a good laugh later today.
I got to give credit to former coworker Drew Jackson. He's a great meteorologist, and he's the one that first introduced that phrase to me. And I think he got it from somewhere else, but I don't know where.
Huh. Yeah, it's good.
Anyway, great.
If you can get it right, it's great.
It's always so hard as meteorologists. We don't read a prompter. We're ad-libbing. And whenever a director or a producer gets in our ear, we have to almost parse our brain, our thoughts. Like, what am I saying and what are they saying?
Right.
It's very hard to digest. So we were watching that in real time on that video clip of Camilla there. Very difficult. By the way, if you're watching the podcast, I look like a ghost right now because the light in the other room, the audio room, just went out. It's on a timer. So I may jump up and turn it back on. I may not. So we'll go ahead and move on. All right. So we got the snow level forecast up here. And I think big picture is we're going to be dealing with this mild, wet stuff through the weekend.
Right. Yeah, look at the high snow levels. I mean, in November, we can sometimes have great snow in November up in the Cascades. I mean, we can have cold storms, and we're suddenly skiing on the 10th or 15th of November. but we don't see much. And in fact, if I'm correct, now I didn't look at the morning maps, but Tuesday and Wednesday, when the snow level drops a lot, the precip's tapering off, isn't it? Isn't it a cool troughing?
There's pretty good agreement between computer models and their ensembles that we're going to be drying out Tuesday into Wednesday. And we might actually have 2 consecutive dry days, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday's kind of up in the air, though.
Yeah.
Crazy talk.
Two consecutive dry days now sounds like a godsend.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Some sun breaks could be good. Actually, we might have some inversions that we deal with, but that's a story for another day. All right. What's next on the docket here, guys? Mark?
I think I just lost it. I didn't.
Let's talk about the rain.
That's right, rainy. So I got to pull up some other graphics while we talk about the rain.
We'll let you do that, but we've clearly entered this wet pattern. The ridge that brought us, I think it was 6 consecutive dry days, that has flattened out, and that's kind of opened the doors to multiple weather systems that are moving in from the Pacific. It's like a train of systems that are never ending. I mean, temporarily they'll end mid next week, but and they're coming they're coming in from the west southwest, and that means usually warmer.
Very mild.
Could really tap into atmospheric rivers, and they can be pretty juicy, as we like to say here on the first slide, or we're not the first live local weather team anymore. I've tried to say that a lot on air, but yeah,
it happens.
Yeah,
it happens.
First alert weather team. All right. So yeah, we have some pretty wet systems coming in, high snow levels. We're going to show you a couple of different computer models here. We're not showing you the ensembles necessarily, which give us better averages, but so this has constantly been the wetter computer model over the past 4 or 5 days. It's been showing some impressive rainfall outlooks. And this is the outlook between Thursday at 5 p.m. and Tuesday. So it's like a 4.5 day outlook for the next series of storm systems. And this is the European model showing about, maybe upwards of 2.5 to 4 inches of rain along the I-5 corridor, and potentially 4 to 6 inches of rain along the coast. And we always end up getting more rain along the Coast Range and Cascade, so maybe 5 to 8 inches if this verifies on western-facing slopes.
Seems like they've been too heavy often. Not always, but too heavy. The Euro tends to be a little heavier many times, I've noticed. I mean, I bet we're more in the 2 to 3 inch range from this point forward.
Well, and that's why I've kind of been showing, this is European model, and then we'll contrast that to the GFS model. And this is showing
that's more reasonable.
2 to 3 inches I-5 corridor,
right?
3 to 4.5 along the coast. So maybe shave off an inch or so, and possibly probably greater totals in the higher terrain. So
the one thing I don't like about this product is it's 50 kilometer resolution, which is terrible. The ensemble average and just I wish we had better definition. Like it would totally show if it had higher resolution, you would see higher totals in the mountains.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but I think 2 to 4 inches is a fair bet. Not enough to cause flooding, unless we get really intense precip for a certain amount of time. Here's one. Actually, let me go back to this one.
And by the way, when you say flooding, you mean more nuisance flooding, correct? Because the rivers are still so low right now.
Exactly. So one product we look at, here's a great one. This is from the GFS. It's the ensemble average, but it's what you see here is a whole lot of numbers, right? Each horizontal line here is one model run. All right. So at the bottom is the most recent GFS ensemble model run. You go up one line, you've got from now all the way through the next 15 days from the last model run. You go up to the third line from the bottom, it's 2 runs back, okay, and so on. So what you can do is go up and look at one horizontal line. For example, let's see. I wish I could draw, but oh wait. Oh no, I'd have to edit image. We're not going to do that. So you can see my cursor. Let's go closer. You can see my cursor here. Here is right here, right in here, you see these 1.17 inches in 24 hours, 1.19 inches, and this is ending Saturday afternoon. So this says, okay, there could be an inch of rain in 24 hours. And the model's been pretty consistent the last 1, 2, 3, 4 runs. Before that, go straight up. It wasn't quite as heavy. So the GFS has become heavier for Saturday over the last few model runs. And it kind of does that again Sunday night, Monday, maybe 3/4 of an inch. And that's been a pretty steady. See the blues? Yeah, but none of those are enough to give us significant flooding over 24 hours.
Something
Go
I
ahead,
added
Jeff.
something I added to the 7-day forecast was the possibility of some isolated thunderstorms and more convective showers, the heavier downpours Saturday afternoon. It looks like we'll kind of be in between systems and we could have some instability. So that's where we could see some pretty hefty rainfall rates.
I noticed that too. I was kind of, and the look on our graph model was like, ooh, and it's west-southwest. So I was kind of thinking, ooh, funnel clouds.
Funnel clouds, yeah.
Oh, gosh. Oh,
Mark
Camilla.
would love to see one.
Funnel clouds, okay. No tornadoes.
Do you know when he said at the winter weather forecasting conference this past Saturday, I think it shook a lot of people.
Did I say that in public?
You did.
And I knew it was coming. I was like, please don't say it, Mark. Please. And
wait, you're talking about Mount Hood?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mark wants to see Mount Hood gently erupt sometime in his lifetime.
Gently. Yeah. All right, so this is the 6-hourly European. So this is a European ensembles, and we go to just 6 hour. And I've suddenly become a big fan of this when we're looking for first alert weather days here, which is like, is there going to be intense precip like during the morning or afternoon commute or midday, middle of the night, and not quite as big of a deal, but is there going to be any period where we get? I mean, in our area, we need like 0.2 of an inch of rain per hour for several hours to even think about that. So that would be 6 hours. 2, 4, 6. You need like 0.8 or an inch of rain in 6 hours around here to cause local, like that nuisance flooding, Jeff, you were just talking about, like urban flooding, where it's like, oh my gosh, part of this freeway briefly got covered in water. And I just don't see that. Again, latest run of the Euro here from, wait, this is from yesterday. Why is it from yesterday? Where's the overnight one? That's weird. Okay, well, it's a day old, but same idea. But you just don't see any 6 hour amounts, 0.35. That's what we were just going to have last night. Sure enough, we didn't get, that intense rainfall. Maybe Saturday morning, late night Saturday morning, 1/2 inch or 0.6 of an inch of rain in 6 hours. It's only 1/10 of an inch per hour. So, you just don't see any really intense stuff. And notice it gets lighter as we go out in time. So clearly, we're not going to enter a period here where we get just tons and tons and tons of rain and we have to worry about flooding. It looks like the intensity backs off. And maybe there's something again, right, Jeff, Sunday night and Monday?
Yes, yeah, there's another wet system coming in. That'll be like the third of this series. So, and to elaborate on something I mentioned earlier, our river levels are pretty low. We don't have much snow to melt. So there's not going to be a lot necessarily filling up into our watersheds, and we won't have any of these, bigger rivers flooding over. But, local creeks at times could get higher, and, the freeways could have the pooling and ponding type of situation. Some neighborhoods may have some pooling and ponding, but that's about all that we're really seeing.
But for that reason, we don't have any first alert weather days. I've been looking because it's like, hey, this is the time of the year we start looking for those. Could there be a day that really affects us pretty dramatically? And I don't see it. I kind of, it's weird. I kind of want to see one. I'd like to see something like to kind of start the stormy season. But yeah, you like this graphic. I mean, kind of makes the point here. Let's go down to the third point, the valley windstorm. This shows the next 7 to 10 days. If you're not watching a graphic, a first alert weather graphic here, the next 7 to 10 days. Do we see any of these events through November 10th? And these are the 4 kind of big events we can get here in the wintertime that really can affect us or mess up our lives. It's lowland snow, an Arctic blast, a valley windstorm, or widespread flooding. And I don't really see any good chance for any of those. The valley windstorm, gusts over 50, we could suddenly get a low pressure that spins up that we don't know, until we see it 3 or 4 days ahead of time. But I don't know. I don't see anything. Jeff, did you?
I don't. It seems like most of the low systems are going to stay offshore. Gusting into the coast. By the way, it's worth mentioning that the Astoria Megalitz Bridge gusted to 60 miles per hour this morning between, I think, 7 and 7:30. So, which is not unheard of, this time of year along the coastline.
That's like a Tuesday morning. Well, I guess it would be a Thursday morning, but yeah, nothing too unusual there. But I don't see that. And also you can't see it here, but I have nope on widespread flooding just because these systems are moving pretty quick. Nothing's lingering for a long time. We're not getting a big Pineapple Express atmosphere forever. So again, and boy, the other thing is there is no hint of any sort of a cold pattern for lowland snow or an Arctic blast, which is funny because we can see about 2 weeks ahead and there's just nothing. It just looks very mild. Very mild.
I'm gonna sneak in a couple of weather terms of the week, just sneaking in.
Go ahead.
On this topic. Zonal flow versus meridional flow.
Nice.
Camilla knows Okay, I like your reaction, Camilla. Okay, Camilla, you take it away. What is zonal flow versus meridional flow?
Yeah, so zonal flow is much more of the kind of typical what we see, right? Easterly, westerly, right? From moving from west to east.
Yep.
Meridional flow, like the meridians, north south. So that
Nice.
definitely dictates what type of weather we're going to be seeing, right? Because zonal flow tends to be, again, more kind of mild, what we're used to seeing here, typically more wet. Right, Jeff? Take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, those are the situations where we can get those atmospheric rivers, a lot of rain, high snow levels. And Mark is looking way out, and he's not this graphic, but what Mark was just saying, I know he's looking way out in the long-term forecast with ensembles, and he's seeing that consistent zonal flow, and we aren't seeing a switch over, any sign of a switch over to meridional flow, which would end up bringing cooler air, lower snow levels, and more interesting forecasting.
In fact, we don't even see a cold zonal flow. That's when we can get big snows, where it's like systems are kind of combining out to the west of us. Cold air is coming out over the North Pacific and then swinging in over us. We don't see that even. So just these mild, or maybe a kind of a splitty pattern showing up around 2 weeks. Okay, so folks. Okay, so just for fun, I put this in my blog post last night, the weather blog. And the European ensembles are run. There's a run that goes out to 46 days. All right. So every night. Now, of course, we don't put maps like this on the air, but it was interesting. I thought that starting about mid-month and then continuing for the next month, the classic El Nino pattern is showing up in the that model from mid-November to mid-December. Here's just the rainfall anomaly. It shows drier than normal, significantly drier than normal in the Pacific Northwest and turning wetter than normal in California. Whether that really occurs or not, we will see. But I just thought that was interesting that it's got, I don't have the map here, but the upper level map, you can see high pressure over Western Canada quite a bit of that time during that month. So we will see. Does it turn into at some point, if we have this El Nino winter, you would expect a pattern like that to show up in the next 2 months. So we'll see if it happens.
Let's just mentally mark this down in our minds. Early November, we're seeing the potential for a switch over to more of an El Nino pattern, wet in the Southwest, drier in the Pacific Northwest. I'll be curious. I've had a lot of people asking me, because I've been showing a lot of those comparisons between the GFS and the European, which one is better for the Pacific Northwest? I bet you guys are getting that question a lot too, and it's really hard to answer it. We don't really have a specific case study on the two computer models, but somebody said it seems like the European model always performs better than the GFS, but I can just think about last
Not always.
week. Right. Yeah. And last week was a great example of that. It was not until 2 days out when we got that rain and mountain snow that the European model finally nailed down the timing. The GFS was nailing down the timing 5 days out. So it's always great to kind of compare and contrast and look at all the computer models. So okay, so we've got this cool graphic we teased last week in the podcast. We have it sitting on the back of one of our big TV monitors in the studio that we can gaze at. It's the average annual precipitation. I hate this graphic right here because it shows my misprint. The average annual precipitation for the metro area.
Why I showed it, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
That's why it's up there.
Me again.
Jeff, did I leave the paper in that room where you were recording? Is it there? That map? That chart?
There are papers, but no, unfortunately, Marky did not.
It was too valuable. I didn't want to leave stuff like that just sitting around. That's like money.
Okay, so what we're showing you here is how there are microclimates within the metro area. We have different elevation changes. We have, and because of that alone, we see quite a difference in precipitation, average precipitation over a year, just from one side of the metro area to the other.
Yeah, and I should give full credit. So Charlie Ferris worked at the BPA, Bonneville Power Administration, and I think he stopped in 2019, or maybe he still runs it. He retired 20-something years ago. But for all these years, for decades, he had a group of spotters that recorded rainfall across the whole metro area. He started in the late 60s, before I was born, folks, and he was still doing it as of just a few years ago. So that's about 50 years of data. And so he was able to get, real good detail on the rainfall across the metro area. And when you average that amount of length of time, then you get pretty good data. But, you would think everybody gets the same rainfall in the metro, right? We all complain about it, but there are much drier spots than others, and you can see them there in the Tualatin Valley, especially kind of the central and east side of the Tualatin Valley, and then right around PDX Vancouver Interstate Bridge, the lowest elevation. Well, for one, it's the lowest elevation, but any guess as to why those two spots are kind of dry?
I would hedge a bet that it's because they're downwind of mountains or the coast range.
Right.
Yeah. Rain shadow.
Yeah, rain shadow. The Tualatin Valley, it's downwind of the coast range if our flow is westerly most of the time. And then the, actually, here's a better one. And then that dry area along the Columbia River in North Portland and South Vancouver, that is due to, down
The
kind
West
of downslope
Hills.
from the West Hills. Yeah. 1,000 to 1,500 feet in there, and a little bit drier in those places. So actually, our airport observations, let me get here. Can I zoom? There we go. The airport observations are on the northwest corner of the airport, are within that yellowish area. So airport averages 36 to 37 inches of rain a year. So pretty interesting, huh? So you can't complain you get too much rain there. Look at this one. You go out to the central and the east metro, and then you see the effect of the Cascades, the air mass air masses as they come in. They start to feel those higher elevations around. It's called the Borean volcanic area there, where old volcanoes, where it's lots of hills around Borean and Happy Valley and Damascus, and those areas get 50 inches of rain a year.
It's really interesting that we're
wetter.
showing the east side of the metro area. We'll often, on snow events where we have the scattered showers coming in, we will just get impressive snow video from Happy Valley or Damascus or Estacada.
Right.
If you think about it, a cloud forms with rising air and it dissipates with sinking air. So when the air sinks down the coast range or the West Hills, it tends to leave us with drier weather. But when it starts to rise again, let's say back up into the Cascade foothills, that rising air helps to, bring more precipitation, if you will, increase the rainfall rates or the snowfall rates. So,
and in fact, if you drive through the gorge, as you start driving, through East Portland, then Troutdale, then Multnomah Falls, it gets wetter and wetter. Bonneville Dam, I think, averages 90 inches of rain per year. Here's a good one. Here we go. Here's all of Oregon.
Nice.
And you can see those wet places, the Coast Range and the Cascades. Those areas in blue that we're looking at in the Cascades and the Coast Range, that's 60 inches or more. So those are wet places, especially the Central and North Cascades. And the Coast Range, look at these spots in the North Coast Range, where you got kind of that pinkish color in the Tillamook County, Lincoln County, Clatsop County. I mean, that's 140 to maybe 180 inches of rain a year. And same in Southwest Oregon. Yeah.
I don't think there's a coincidence why a lot of our farms and our vineyards are set up right downwind of the Coast Range, because they get more sunny days, more growing time. I'm sure there are other factors, of course, but that's pretty important stuff.
Yeah.
I always tell the kids when I go to schools, I'm like, hey, do you think of Oregon as a wet place or dry place? And they're all like, oh, no, it rains all the time. And then I go, well, and I show this graphic. It's actually 2/3 of Oregon is very dry. Very dry. Look at that. Most areas, all the yellow areas, 20 inches or less of rainfall. Yellow, oranges, reds. So very dry all across the lower elevations east of the Cascades and some of the high desert spots as well.
I had a viewer looking at one of our rainfall forecasts, a rainfall map, and lives in eastern Clark County, and said, man, those rainfall expectations for eastern Clark County are high. And that's because that's one of the areas that lives right at the base of the Cascades, or right in the Cascade foothills. And you can see a dramatic difference in rainfall totals versus say, down in Vancouver.
Those areas up around Amboy, Yakult, and then even slightly farther north out of the metro area, kind of those southwest slopes of Mount St. Helens really get dumped on. What is that? The Swift Creek sensor? Sheep Creek? No, Sheep Canyon. Sheep and Swift. It's something like that. And those places, we'll get 2 inches of rain in Portland, and they get 8 inches up there in Sheep Heaven, or Sheep Canyon, I think it is.
Swimmy, swammy, slappy, Samsonite.
No, I think it's Swift Creek. Well, I know there's a Swift, reservoir, but I know it's Sheep and Swift.
Oh, God.
Got it?
Yeah. Thank you for making me feel better about my whole snow saying debacle.
Yeah.
Right there.
Camilla,
appreciate it.
What happened to you the other night? That happens to me like every night.
Right.
But at least, At least when I do my graphics, I spell them correctly most of the time.
Oh, stop it. You guys
Snap.
try formulating sentences and things like that at 4:30 in the morning, and we'll see how. Yeah,
Couldn't be me.
We'll
I
see how that
shared.
goes.
I was shared with the guys before the podcast. I stood in my kitchen and I poured my coffee into a wine tumbler this morning because I can't function before
Too early.
9 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So
Ugh.
I think the big picture is that we have pretty wet weather coming. I mentioned this morning. The football games this week are not going to be like the football games last week. We have
Yeah.
a pretty wet
Oh, that's
system
right.
coming in Friday evening. So I think it's fun to play football in the mud, but it's not fun for the fans and the moms and the dads out there. So bring the ponchos, bring the rain gear.
It
Camilla?
might be
Right.
hitting second half, right? I mean, it's kind of
Depending
later
on where
Friday
you're
night.
located. You know
That's
what?
true.
The timeline seems like it's been moving up a little bit. You'll have to look
Oh.
at the updated models
Okay.
when you get in.
Jeff, we will refine and improve that forecast when we get in later today. We'll let you know. We'll get back to you when we
Jeff's
decide.
face right now.
What are you trying to say, Mark?
We'll make a few tweaks. Actually, I've been really good, haven't I? With the 7-day, I'll take your forecast. I'm like, it looks good, and then only tweak a little bit.
Yeah, not too bad.
What about the fall back? What about the fall back logo?
Oh, yeah, we had a fight over that.
No, we didn't fight. I texted Mark. I said it was getting a little bit busy up top with all the rain icons and the.
True.
We are falling back, by the way. That's probably a good thing to
Yeah.
mention.
Saturday
night. Yep. So.
Except that nowadays there's almost nothing to change. Nowadays it's so automated.
Right.
It's like the oven. You have to fix the
Yeah.
oven and the one battery powered clock up on the wall there.
But I still feel like every year it's kind of a shock when you're like, oh, sunset at 4:40 something or whatever, and you're like, oh.
So dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, always so dark.
Yeah.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well,
All right.
that about does it. I think midweek next week we could catch some dry time, and that's around when we're going to be recording our next podcast. So we always appreciate you joining us. This was episode 76. Have a great weekend. Stay dry out there.
So stop your waiting and hesitating and tell us, please tell us